not. And watching those very, very top players, the XQNs, and actually putting in the time to turn off the chat and watch the game. But we are in. Let's see what the people have got. Radu, once again on Diablo, he loves this hero since the bugs have been fixed and the hero's been buffed. And they've got all 3 of the promotional heroes. I know they haven't. It's cut. Okay.
Yeah, he does really like Diablo. He's said on stream, I've heard him say is that since the fixes came in, like, it's just a really good hero, like a top tier hero now. The stats don't bear that out. He's a very mid tier hero when it comes to the stat tracking. On par with if you saw Diablo alongside 3 other heroes of similar power level, I think you would generally consider that to be a very rotten choice. Yep. But RDU has had a lot of success with that hero. Maybe he does know something that we don't. In terms of how to play the hero, but still remains to be seen. I'll be looking forward to see if he can keep up his very high win rate with that hero so far and show us all how it's done.
One thing I do know about how he sees the hero is he believes that people play it too aggressively in general, rather than letting the 5/5 do its thing and just going about your business. So I'll be interested to see how he puts that together in this lobby.
Collins on Panda here. WTY Bill picking up Lorinda's pick for #1 hero in the game of Battlegrounds. Do you want to tell us about Yasharaj?
Yasharaj is underrated, as I've always said, because I'm obviously the best in this game and nobody else understands what they're talking about. That's quite clear. But no, the fact you can go to a tier and then repeatedly get a shot at hitting that for 2 gold. When there's something as strong as tier 4, especially with elementals are in Sottle, we can see an elemental on our screens.
Yeah.
You have a lot of things to hit for sometimes an extra minion in a turn. That is a little bit more of a function of the way that curves used to work. People are a bit more efficient at using their gold in curves now, so the power level's gone down, but it is still a very functional hero, and you get a lot of tempo for very cheap with it while you're setting up.
That was a very debatable freeze by Sun on that turn, by the way, which you saw. I think she was freezing and unfreezing on multiple turns. Like, Celemental pair with an Acolyte is about the best opening you can get. It does also open up Jeef Curve on Cookie, which I actually think is quite powerful as well. Jeef Curve, for those who aren't familiar, is spending 1 extra turn on level 1. Instead of spending 4 gold to level on turn 2, you then level on turn 3. You can then choose to either double buy or level on the turn after that for the perfect gold interval. I do think that's quite strong on Cookie, but generally it is agreed upon, and I agree as well, that the strongest thing you can do with Cookie is to go 3-on-3, level up to Tavern 3 on the 3rd turn of the game. And when you have Celemental start, you're being incentivized to do that as well, because it's the perfect start for being able to do that. So I do think that was a very tricky decision for Sun there as to whether she was going to stay or whether she was going to go with the Celi pair and the Acolyte early on.
Yeah, on Cookie's twin, Gale Wing, I have seen top players delay the curve. So they go Jeef Curve, and on 1, they don't use the hero power in the normal way. They just give the +2 and delay that hero power turn to fit in with the curve. I've seen that done. So you can play Jeef Curve, and then you pick up the 3-drop instead of picking up the 2-drop.
Yo, perfect attacks for Simi, picking up the tie there, getting the 3-7 off the first attack. She then had to win another 50-50 to dodge the loss and get the tie. So very good outcome there for Simi, saving a little bit of health. Here we do now see RDU's Raid Boss turn with the Diablo. He is going to have this board plus a 5-5, which is where the buff has come in. I forget what the initial minion even was. Was it 3-3, 6-6, 12-12, 24-24? Yeah. So it started off as a 3-3 and doubled every turn. Now it starts off as a 5-5 and doubles every turn. So 5-5, 10-10. 20-20, 40-40. When I say every turn, I mean every one of these Diablo boss fight turns. So RDU will have the board that he has here, plus an extra 5-5, which you would imagine will be strong enough to give him 8 to 10 prizes on this turn with how powerful he is going to be.
Yeah, it should be pretty much a sweep. You just watch that Diablo go up in the standings after this turn. It would just shoot up on the left-hand side quite a long way. And then it's how you use those prizes. That's the question. The original thought process is, you save them all and win the next fight with them. But he might not.
I will just roll back on that a second, because that is the thing you do have to consider. It's not winning the fight; it's having your demon survive, right? And I think one of the problems RDU has now that people don't necessarily look out for him enough is that he doesn't have any taunt as Diablo. Right. So your opponent's first 2 attacks could just go into the 5/5, and that can cost you the prize, right? Like that can absolutely happen.
Yeah, and you're fighting 7 people, so it will happen somewhere in some of those fights.
Correct.
But not this one by the look of it. The main one that we're watching.
No. Early bird person from the Yashiraji is pretty nice, though. Already had a sewer rat on the board. I know we've had discussions of me trying to convince you that even with 1 or 2 beasts on board, bird person is a lot of tempo. Can you just imagine for a second being RDU?
Yes,
like
so
the
nice.
world must be so easy when you're RDU. Like, come on, look at this curve.
Now this is going to be interesting actually, because if RDU has a weakness, it is sometimes being a little too greedy with his triples. Would you like a tank, sir, or would you like another good card?
Tank number 7 in 2 lobbies now for RDU.
I'll take the tank. I'll think about it for a moment as if I wasn't taking the tank, but I'll have a look.
I mean, obviously, right now, his board absolutely sucks for tank, but it really does not matter that much. Like, you can build into a tank board no problem from here. And this is, for me, these are the Diablo games where I see Diablo do well. It's the games where they do get a really heavy tempo board early on, which usually does come from Mechano Tank, because now, between this tank and these treasures, RDU will probably be able to defend the next boss turn as well as he defended this one. And that means not only a full hand of actual good, useful cards that might actually do something in a few turns' time, that's also a lot of damage to the whole lobby in one turn if he actually smacks people later on with the big board as well.
Yeah, we're yet to see the big wipe, somebody killing 3 or 4 people in one turn, and I think we're looking forward to the possibility of that happening. Unless, of course, it's RDU, because of reasons previously stated.
There was a game on RDU's stream, I believe, where I think there was either 5 or 6 alive. He lost the one fight that was his actual fight for the round, but he killed everyone else. So he went from 5th or 6th to 2nd in a single fight, and everyone else died. There was just, I think it was like a Mutinous or a Millhouse maybe, that beat him, was the only person left alive from 6 people standing at the start. It was absurd.
I'm trying to work out what Collins even has here. He stayed very low, but not quite on Warrior curve. He's sort of missed and mashed the curve, which you kind of have to do with this hero, right? Because the hero power doesn't fit into a curve. You don't know what it's going to be. You have to just take it as it comes.
Collins is on Panda Curve this game, right? Which is you just kind of do what the hero power tells you to do on a lot of turns. Although I do think that can be a trap as well, right? Sometimes you just have to look at the 2 hero powers and say, neither of these are worth influencing my turn. I'm just going to play a normal turn as if I was a hero with no hero power this turn, right? But I think Collins has put something together reasonably well here to find himself tripling into a 4-drop. Has options now. There is keyword Avenge, but again, it is the worst keyword Avenge over on the right-hand side. But he also has Greasebot with Divine Shields available if he wants to start pumping. But Collins, clearly a believer in the Avenge. Going to line this up, make sure all of those Death Rattles and Reborns go first. It looks like he also has 1 Sneed hero power on his Micro Mummy, because that is a Death Rattle and a Reborn, it looks like, on the Micro Mummy.
Yeah,
so that's a lot of potential milk to come out of the Impatient Doomsayer here, if we can line this up nicely.
Looking forward to seeing Simi's next turn as well. She has a triple in waiting on that Maev. Already got that powerful demon start that drops off so quickly if you don't keep it going. But with a triple in waiting, she can hit one of those power 4 or 5 demons. She might be in a decent spot to get all the way up to 6 rapidly in this lobby.
Should get 1 more drop here for Collins. There it is. These trades are decent. Collins just now wants a good attack here, and he'll take that one for sure. That cuts a good amount of damage off the board, taking 3 off at the end. Decent setup with the Catherine Azir and the Imprisoner, but not the ideal. But he will probably be looking to go up to 4, use some of that power to leverage, probably milking at least 1 more turn with that Impatient Doomsayer.
It's a Bran, but it's on a demon board. It's a Croc, but it's on a demon board.
It's 3 tempo minions for Dog on a win condition hero with Reno. He really wanted to spike something that wins the game with the hero power, and he didn't. Both players in synchronicity here, one for Europe, one for Americas, just kind of hitting each other's 5-drops here.
Yeah.
Like, Dog would have happily taken that brand and made it a golden brand this game, but it's not looking like he's going to have to go again with the second micro mummy here. Looking like he is just going to sell out. He really wants to find a win condition this turn for the brand. That's why he's selling so aggressively for this. Does find a brand now, but now that he's sold out of all his Murlocs, is he still going to go for it? I think that's probably a dumb question. He has to commit to a win condition this turn, or he's way too far behind. But it's still a bit of an uphill struggle here for Dog, because that's not a brand board that he's left himself with now, having to sell so aggressively for those triples.
Yeah, that is absolutely an Avenge board in the waiting. But I guess that gives him two choices, right? His next shot will tell him which of those two win conditions he goes with. Or if you're me, you just go for both.
I do think it's interesting, because there was a line there for Dog where he didn't actually use the hero power that turn because he's on 4, right? So all he got from using the hero power that turn was +2/+4 stats on Bram, which might save him a little bit of health here and there, but probably not super relevant in the fight overall. And then that gave him one turn of just being on 4 to perhaps look for Avenge to go golden on the following turn. I think with him having, believe over half health still, he maybe had enough chance to still be milking with Golden Avenge if he got to that point. So it's a possible line he could have considered.
I nearly fell into the trap here of thinking Evelyn had a bad board, but she's on Sneed. But she did seem to only have one active death rattle, so perhaps it is actually a bad board after all.
Was it literally one death rattle, or just one minion with a million death rattles?
One minion with one death rattle I saw. Maybe I missed one early on, but I only saw one death rattle drop.
Alright. Diablo boss fight yet again. And this is the kind of situation I was talking about. There are multiple heroes in range of just being killed by RDU this turn. He just wants to get as big as possible this turn, make himself a murder board, stick some expensive things on the far right of his board so they live. Anything he can do to deal extra damage, because he has a good shot of deleting half the lobby here with how strong he is with Juggler, Demons, and the Meccano tank now as well.
Yeah, and he's bearing out what you're saying there. He's scrolled past 2 Nest Matrons on a board that would quite happily take a Nest Matron in a lot of circumstances.
Yep.
But 14
It's
health.
murdering time. He's not concerned with value. This is the absolutely correct team play here from this position. If he eliminates enough people, enough of them will be America's players that he puts himself back in a good position. The problem is, going back to the story of RDU carrying Europe so far, he's probably going to kill some Europe players this turn too, with the way things are panning out. That is, I believe, Sun on Cookie down there in second bottom position right now, who is very vulnerable to dying to this board. We haven't seen her board recently. She might be monstrous, I don't know. But if she is weak and low on health, she is in real danger of being killed by RDU.
So is Dog if he didn't fix that board quick enough.
Absolutely, yep.
Like if he got some things to work with the brand, sure, but he didn't have a board at the start of the turn, so it'd be interesting to see if Dog just vanishes after this fight.
Well, Collins is dead, I can tell you that much. I would be stunned if he got out of this one alive.
Let's see if Evelyn's also going to die. She did have at least one death rattle on the Juggler, but I believe it was only one last turn. We'll see now. No, it must have been 2 last turn. No, it's still 1 because she dropped the Khadgar. Right.
And there you go. That is going to be 13 damage over to Dog. That is going to be 15 damage to Aveline.
Oh!
So, sorry, Collins does die. That is half the lobby deleted. That's Sun. That is Dog. That was Collins on the Panda. And who was the Maiev? Was that Simi? That was Simi on the Maiev going down as well.
And now the fun begins. First of all, RDU's actually reasonably strong. Secondly, there's 3 more rounds that might not even be matter. You get to turn 12, he gets to do it all again, but he might have killed everybody by then. But now he's actually got to play real Hearthstone without any help from 10-10s. Just all these.
And can I get a tank count check, please, Cody? That is tank number 8 in lobby number 2 for RDU up until this point.
8 tank Radu.
been calling him that for years.
And now he's actually got to use these prizes aggressively, right? Because he is going to get caught up. He doesn't actually have a real Hearthstone board at the moment. He's just got things that will keep him alive for a little while longer. But this is going to get outscaled quite fast. So he needs to sort of kill people each turn. Is how I see it.
We are right back where we were last lobby, by the way. Sub in Evelyn for Luna, which is a big win for Europe, of course. It means a little bit more Europe representative in that top 4. Shout outs to Av picking up a top 4 with the Sneed so far. But guess who the other 2 players left alive are, Lorinda? That is WTY Bill on the Usherage, and that is Slisser on the Mutinous, the exact same 2 Americas players that were hanging out with RDU in the top 4 of the previous game as well.
Yeah, and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, unfortunately, but I believe they both did very well yesterday as well. So this is going to be a theme, not just for the rest of the day, but for the rest of this tournament.
Slisser's a beast. Like, genuinely, shout out to Slisser, because someone who doesn't have like the super extensive tournament background that RDU has, she has that same tournament mode Slisser aura, right? Where it seems like when it comes down to situations like this, she just absolutely enters beast mode. And like I say, she's doing it with significantly less competitive background, at least in Hearthstone, than RDU is doing it. But
yeah, she did.
Nonetheless, she does survive.
She picked up the team league. She played for Liquid in the China Battlegrounds, so she picked up some experience that way. But it's very different to the not so regular way that other tournaments might work with delays and such like. That was very, very scheduled and on time and everything.
Av does bite the dust here, which means we are down to exactly the same top 3 yet again with WTY Bill, with Slisser, and with RDU. RDU once again looking in decent shape to take this down with how far ahead of the power scaling he is. We haven't had a look at WTY's bill for WTY Bill's board, for a couple of turns, but RDU just has the board that the game hasn't gone long enough for this board to drop off in terms of scaling, and it absolutely will very soon. But RDU is doing a fantastic job of doing what he needs to do, and that's killing people before that happens. And he's also now making a push to actually turn this into something a little bit more impactful. That's a very good Amalgadon to get in the circumstance. He gets poison and he gets plants, which has the synergy with his tank stuff that he has going on. So that's a pretty nice roll on the Amalgadon right there.
And this was a hard turn as well, because he had a lot of synergy on that board and he had to work out which bits of synergy to break. So he chose to get rid of the imps and the jugglers, which made sense when you see it, on the board afterwards. If you can't beat them,
yes, indeed. Indeed. And this is Bill has Divine Shields and resets on his side alongside that as well, which I think will interact very nicely with, Amalgadon, no Divine Shield, poison on the other side, for example.
He might lose to the Ghost here because those jugglers sniped both tanks. Or sniped the tank.
Oh! That's brutal. I was looking left. I didn't even see that happen. I looked back to the right just at the final moment to see the tanks come down. Very, very real chance that he is going to bite the dust of the Ghost now. Absolutely. Was not prepared to be seeing Soul Jugglers coming out here. Just absolutely was not equipped to deal with this. And yep, that is him biting the dust. You would have to imagine from this point. Oh! Hang on, what level? Tavern 4, that's 10 damage! He lives! That's a 25%er according to the numbers on the screen. 75% to die that turn, it looked like. And you see the range of Sneed's damage that's possible. I believe the average damage tracker on that fight was 7 to 28 on a loss for WTY Bill.
Yeah, who knows what it might do to you. Right.
Yeah.
So he gets a second chance. That was an incredible pair of snipes. So he must have been in a slightly better position than maybe the tracker thought, because he had the worst possible start and still got through it.
His attacks did go incredibly well for the last 3 or 4 attacks. So like it was 3 or 4 like genuine 1-outers that he needed to hit in a row to be able to save that one, including juggles going in particular directions as well.
Radu has got through his prizes, and I mean he's heads up, so yep, he's timed it well, and he has just paced the game beautifully so far.
Yep.
And looking at these boards, it's hard to really get an instant gain because the deflectos are going to do a lot of damage here. But it does look like Radu's got a slight advantage. That 27-38 Sorolisk in its own right is actually doing more work than maybe we've alerted people to, because we are talking about tanks a lot.
Yeah, just I guess focusing on positioning, which is not something we've talked about too much. It's hard to hit on everything with the frenetic pace of a Battlegrounds lobby like this, but I think if RDU knew exactly what he was up against here with double tank on the other side, he would move the Sorolisk down to soak as many mech tank shots as possible without it actually attacking into something itself, right? Because once his 27-38 goes down and once something attacks into his big 15 health taunt, those tanks are the next target left on the board that will get shot by the tanks with the way the health breakpoints work. So preserving some health on that Sorolisk would have been important. But again, I don't think RDU knew what he was up against on the other side, so that's not really a decision you can necessarily make unless you're going to make the read from... Oh! Never mind! That ghoul is disgusting for WTY Bill. That cost him his Deflecto bot on that turn. I think he's still fine. He is absolutely still fine being able to get out of this one. There is still the demons to contend with, though, on the other side. Bill does have initiative here, though, I believe, with the attacks.
I think...
Oh, no, his tank is attacking, so now Double Demon is going to summon, and Bill is not going to beat Double Demon with 2 mechs, and that means that Ghoul Spawn ruining his Deflecto bot just means RDU is picking up yet another fat dub. And Lorinda, I can see it on his face already.
I know.
I can already see the reign of tyranny that we're going to have to be subjected to from RDU's stream if this keeps going. Again, some good play, some good rolls. The combination of the two things that you really need to be picking up dubs in Battlegrounds. RDU is hitting both of them right now. I think it's kind of hard to dispute that a little bit. But yeah, shout outs to Radu crushing it yet again, picking up another victory.
Yeah, just carrying the team once again. Although I didn't...
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just to interrupt you really quickly, I went to write on my notepad to put a 1 next to RDU's name, and as I looked down, I realized I'd already done it before the fight had even happened. That's how committed I was to the idea that RDU was never losing.
You can just put it for the next game as well now. I think we just committed to just having to deal with this for the next, I don't know, 14 years or something. But no, fantastic result again for RDU. Nice to see Yashaj coming second place there. Always a good hero to pick. Especially when he gets Diablo as winning the lobby. That's the second time he's picked it, and the second time he's first place with it, by the way. So I understand he was rolling high, but his initial board wasn't ridiculous. He took a couple of Sorolists early and just took the tempo stuff.
Yeah.
Murdered everybody in the first lobby, held onto the prizes, got through to the second lobby, did it again, killed half the people in the game. And then paced them nicely, right? He used that second lot of prizes rather than holding on to them just to finish everybody else off. So
yeah, for sure. I'm just looking up stats right now on Diablo just to confirm what I've seen earlier. He has moved up a little bit from the last time I looked at it, but yeah, in top 1%. Certainly, he is a tier 2-ish hero, like mid-tier 2, comparable to a Mutinous, a Fungalmancer Flurgle, Sir Finley. Like, he's around that level. So he's playable for sure with the way the buffs have panned out. But I think, the way RDU has been running with Diablo and the way that I've heard him talk about it on stream, like, he thinks this is a Millhouse Panda cookie level hero, right? Which I personally don't think Diablo's on that level, and the stats don't seem to bear out that he's on that level either. RDU's results, however, do seem to bear out that he's on that level. Again, I put that down to sample size personally. RDU will probably tell you that he's just a god and he's playing Diablo better than everyone else. But personally, I think it's just sample size. He's running hot on Diablo right now. He's getting those turns where you murder 4 or 5 people in the lobby in one turn, which is what you absolutely want to be doing with Diablo. He is playing for those situations very well, and I want to take nothing away from that. His setup turn on that turn, which you pointed out perfectly, threw away a bunch of value cards, rolled past a bunch of attractive win condition-y looking cards just to be murder board that turn, just so he could effectively deal as much damage to as many people as possible. And that's what ended up winning the lobby, because he got into a position where all he needed to do was scam once, and then he scammed once, and he won the entire lobby because of it.
There is this thing with Battlegrounds, I touched on it briefly in one of the other broadcasts, but I can't remember when it was now, where you don't get sample size on many heroes at all, even if you're playing dozens of games. So there is this, it's not like in regular Constructed where if you're bad at Priest, you go away, you play Priest for a week, you get better at Priest. If you're bad at a hero and you need practice in it, you can watch other people play it, you can research it, but you don't get the time with it unless you're offered it. And so we do get this situation where, and again, I'm not going to say that he's won 2 lobbies, therefore he's the best Diablo player. I'm not going to give him that benefit yet. But you do get this situation where some of the players are bad on heroes they shouldn't be, and some people are much better than other people on some heroes. So that could definitely be at play here as well.
And that's kind of the art to being a top-level Battlegrounds player. Like, every Battlegrounds player has to understand how to play Hook Task, Cookie, Gale Wing, Panda, Millhouse, Ysera, Jandis. Those heroes, you have to be able to play all of those very, very well, and a few others as well. Then, however, you have to also pick 10-ish other heroes that are kind of mid-tier and take those as like pet heroes, right? And then through that method, you generally have enough bases covered that 1 out of 4 of the heroes you'll be offered will be one of those heroes that you know what to do with, right? You either get a top tier hero, which you've learned how to play effectively because you take the game seriously, or you've hit one of those pet picks, right? Where for RDU, that very clearly does seem to be that Diablo is one of them, right? For, other people, you see Eudora in there, you see Lich King in there, Silas, for example. There's all these kind of heroes around that same kind of level, which different players will argue and say, no, this hero is good. Like, some people will still fight you to the death to the day that Deathwing is playable, right? Because that's one of the heroes that they've picked up as a pet pick and they've learned to play really, really well. And that's something that you really do have to do, because that's what Battlegrounds is about. It's about increasing your average placement. And to do that, you have to give yourself outs in every situation. And that starts at hero selection. You can't be narrow. You can't only know how to play 10 heroes in the game when there's 50 heroes available, because there's going to be games where that 1 in 4 doesn't come up and you have to play something you don't understand.
Shenvala boy, ladies and gentlemen, giving it how it is. You do play that hero a lot, don't you?
I mean,
as your pet.
Terrible
hero.
honestly haven't picked Shenvala in probably 3 months. Like, I had to go cold turkey though, because it was, eventually I did look at my MMR and I was like, okay, there is some serious coping going on here. I thought my results were a lot better with this hero than they actually were. So I had to just hard cut myself off from Shenvala. But yeah, man, that hero is fun.
On the other hand, I still pick Yashiraj every time, unless there's a top tier hero in there. But again, that does, joking aside, and me being low MMR aside, that does fit what you just said. I'm pretty good at that hero. When I'm offered a bunch of garbage, I've got a bad hero that I can play. There's no point learning all of the bad heroes equally well, because you're still just going to have a load of bad heroes. And I imagine that the break, by the way, for those who are almost certainly wondering in chat, won't be like the last one. They did set everything up for Game 2. But I'm just going to quickly check. But I don't see any problems being reported. So fingers crossed, I think that Game 3 should start whatever on schedule is.
Yeah, I don't want to make any promises that I myself have no control over whether I keep or not, but I would imagine if Dog was able to set up into that game, got through the whole thing, didn't seem like there were any major issues, then the idea would probably be to roll through fairly quickly, but we will see where we land on things for sure. Seeing a little bit of talk going back and forth in Discord. RDU already rubbing it in. There is some Diablo OP being spammed in Discord on RDU's front. Everyone else is accusing him of being a streamer, which is true. That's just facts. That's not even an insult at that point. That's just actively true. But I think that's part of it as well, right? Like, which of those heroes you're going to gravitate towards kind of depends. Like, it's a personality test to an extent. And if you are a streamer, then yeah, of course, for the first 48 hours or so, RDU was just being spammed to play Diablo over and over again. So it's no great surprise that he figured out some strats and figured out some things to do with that hero. And again, everyone will disagree on what the best 10 to 12 heroes to learn out of Tier 2 and Tier 3 are. doesn't really matter that much because a lot of those heroes are very tightly compressed together in terms of average position. So it's just the ones where you find a win condition that you like, and a lot of it will just end up being selection bias, right? Because as you were saying, you might have only played 5 to 10 games of a particular hero, and you might have high rolled out of your mind in those 5 to 10 games, and that'll give you this false impression that that's a hero that you need to play long term. It's just absolutely not the case.
Yeah. The Yashiraj glove came around from I streamed it and somebody was saying, "Oh, don't pick this." I go, "Look, it's really good," and I rolled 6 consecutive Elises, and people say, "Yeah, just keep picking that, you're fine, you know how to play this hero." So that was a great game. But again, more credit to RDU in that he disliked Diablo originally, and it was only when it got changed he went, "Okay, I'm going to give this another chance, I'm going to see what it's like now." And that wasn't just a streamer thing, that was him actually sort of manning up and saying, no, I'm gonna, just do it anyway because I've been down on this hero, but maybe it's good now, and being willing to reverse his opinion, which isn't something I necessarily associate with RDU in general.
Indeed, and now we are going into lobby number 3. We do see RDU being offered an Omu over there. We see Sun picking up an Alakir, Nothi picking up a Rafarm, and Avalyn picking up Maev. So the two, I guess, OG Rafarm curve heroes down at the bottom there. And RDU picking up one of the strongest heroes in the game, in particular lobbies at least, with the Omu. That ability to just power level up as fast as possible is still extremely potent. It hasn't really been diminished by the fact that a lot of games play on Tavern 4 now, because guess what? Omu still goes to Tavern 4 quicker and more consistently than other heroes do anyway, so he still gets up there towards that light spawn or whatever the Tavern 4 win condition in the lobby is, quicker than anyone else can.
Yeah, it's a very early 2021 lineup. All of those heroes were fantastic in about January, and now they're all sort of tier 2-ish, very playable without being OP in any of their own rights. Obviously, may have suffered the nerf. Rafarm, just other heroes are able to do the same thing now. Omu, you're not going to 6, you've just described, but you still get to 4 quick. And Alakir, I think, might be sneaky strong. That's possibly becoming a pet hero of mine if you want to go that way, because the ability just gets you so much health at the moment.
I do think Rafarm did fall off for a while, definitely not going to dispute that, and I know you and I will have wild and violent arguments about the power level of Rafarm if we're allowed to get into it, but I would certainly agree that Rafarm fell off for a while, but I think now we're in this 4-drop meta. Rafarm actually went back up a little bit just because of how easy and natural it is for Rafarm to play that curve where he triples into a 4 on curve, right? And because before, what was difficult with Rafarm was you'd get to that point, you'd be like, okay, cool, I can take a 4 this turn, but 4s suck. I want to level, I want to take a 5, I want to level twice, I want to take a 6. That was the hard part to do. That was the part where you take 10, 12 damage in a turn and start to feel a little bit weak. You just don't even have to bridge that gap anymore. You just slam it, you take the 4, that can potentially set you up for a win condition.
Right, Radu's done the thing that can be fatal, and that is not get a token on your Omu. The hero suffers more than any other apart from Jandis when it doesn't get a token. It makes the curve really messy, but be interesting to see how he does go about staying alive, because Omu can take a lot of damage early if it's not careful when it does miss.
You're not wrong.
Wow. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
It's up there, top 3 for sure.
And he has chosen to try to level quicker next turn. That has given him an a very weak board going into the next turn. Going to be interested to see if he can get that tempo back. He is in a bit of a spot here. And Elementals are out again, by the way.
They are, yeah, I was just about to bring that up. Murlocs, Ellies, and Dragons being the tribes eliminated, which leaves us again in that position where mechs can really come down and be dominant, particularly for Bill on Sneed right now. If Bill can pick up a Mechano tank, that's basically just a comp in one card for Bill, for Sneed in particular. With a lot of other people, unless you're RDU and you hit double golden tank and then 2 more tanks and just every card that you roll into is a tank, most other normal people with a normal person's RNG will have to transition from tank comp to a comp that wins at some point. When you're Sneed, you don't have to do that because tank comp actually just wins. You just fill your board with garbage, you pick up enough taunts to constantly be protecting, and you just kind of chill from there. So if Bill can find himself a way to a Mechano tank, he'll be in really good shape this game.
Right, Sun looks like she's about to take a 4. She doesn't. She's taking all the damage. Oof.
You know my stance. Yep.
You're going to get to do the thing, Zottel.
Yeah, this is smart as well. This is just big thing up front with Alakir because she only has 3 other minions on her board. There is no Avenge proc. Impatient Doomsayer got double nerfed, not only on Tavern tier, but also on number of Avenge procs that it needed to give you the minion. So some would need 1 more minion on her board to even think about getting an Avenge proc, so she might as well just throw it up front, get that Divine Shield, Wind Fury on it, try and save some health that way instead, set up for the Avenge now on the following turn.
Something we don't seem to have seen much of, apart from Elementals, obviously, is mechs. We have seen a lot of this sort of board with people trying to go for Avenge but not getting it over the last 2 days. Just a board to survive, things that you're being offered by Bob, cobbling things together. We haven't seen a nice, sweet, early, just grease bot and some Divine Shields or whatever going on in any of these lobbies. Everyone seems to be struggling to find good shots.
And I think a reason for that, honestly, might just be the prevalence of Mechano Tank that we have seen, right? Because generally, mech boards like that, until they get to Buster, Baron, super late game, there's no actual stats on your board, right? It's just Divine Shields, and you're trying to 2-for-1 with those Divine Shields. So if there's a Mechano Tank either shooting a Divine Shield off your minion or eliminating a minion before, like, killing your Deflecto before it refreshes, for example, suddenly your mech board falls apart real quick to a Mechano Tank on the other side. The way to then perhaps mitigate that would just to be play Divine Shields, Greasebot, and a Mechano Tank of your own, but obviously that's asking a lot at that point to have all of that stuff lined up at once.
Looking forward to seeing what Simi takes on that next turn. She's got the freeze in on level 4. She would be able to take a 5-drop over a 4 if she wanted, and with all the beasts on the board, that might be tempting to her.
Avalyn does have a triple locked up there with the Quillbores. Just going to take her a few turns to be able to push through. Sun has done the smart thing here and just picked up immediate value off the Death Rattle. This is smart as well, recognizing that she can basically just put any minion up first that she wants, and that does the job of the Quillbore, even if it is just the Quillbore itself. And then since the Imprisoner is the only taunt anyway, that will always then be attacked by the opponent if not attacking first. So I actually like the previous order that she was in before she switched back there.
Yep. Another close last-minute decision there. Of course, the Doomsayer dropping demons, I tend to just assume it's dropping gold, to be honest, but that might actually be relevant on Sun's board, that they are demons. Until the very end, where you can do some sweet tricks with elementals and fellbats and stuff, of course.
Yeah, I did like this previous board a little bit more. It's very easy to say this now, but I promised this was going to be the very next thing to come out of my mouth, which is something that I've started to think about a little bit more, and I think is tangibly gaining me MMR as well, is what my first attacking minion lines up to into an Acolyte, because it's such a common minion for anyone to have on their board. So for example, on that board, Sun's board wasn't full, so there's a good chance that her opponent's first bumper took off her Divine Shield, and then your Wind Fury 6-4 was just going to trade 1-for-1 with an Acolyte at that point, which personally I think you could have tried to get a little bit more value out of that, but we're getting very deep into the details here. But personally I did like her previous positioning with the other Quillbore first, just that little bit more.
Simi did choose a 5 over a 4, which shouldn't be a notable occurrence, but it is a thing that you have to seriously think about these days.
Yep, with Acolyte and Matron on board, she has a Bran and not an Avenge minion, for example. That is a thing that does need noting here.
But there was an option for Mama Bear and stuff as well, so I don't think it was a straightforward choice.
Absolutely. I think Beast lobbies are the only viable... I mean, never say never in this game, right? That you can find me any lobby where there's a niche situation where going for a 5 is correct, guaranteed. However, as a general rule, I think Beasts in are the only real time where it's viable to go for 5s, because Mama can still be a win condition if you hit it hard enough, and it is just an incredibly strong initial burst of tempo. Other situations, you can be specifically looking for a Mama, a Met Crawl, for example, like these key pieces that can really finish off a comp in certain positions. But I think this is a decent lobby to be looking for 5s, but still a better one to be looking for 4s. There's also the position in the game. She would have seen various other people taking those triples into 4s already before her. So if she does the same thing, Eternal 2 behind everyone else, she's probably not going to get there from that position, which incentivizes you looking for a 5 or a 6 instead.
Yeah, it's a very underrated trait to realise you're not winning the lobby and just do some good stuff to keep yourself alive for a few turns. RDU talking with not winning the lobby, I don't like how his board is looking. He did get himself some extra money. He is going to be able to level again next turn and get some Omu stuff. But if his next turn's another bad one, I think he might actually finally end his streak of great results.
Meanwhile, Collins being super greedy with this curve here with the Panda yet again. This is 2 Panda games in a row for Collins, worth noting. But once again, similar style to before, right? He's behind on tiers and he's been accruing resources at low levels. You see Golden Bird Person is actually something that he can build around tempo for quite some time and actually still be very strong. And then greeding a triple here. And it looks like if he's picking up the other gambler, he's going to greed this triple yet again and actually go all the way for a 6 next turn using this extra 6 gold from the 2. Oh no, he's going to cash one out right now for an immediate Hydra. This probably protects enough health to be worth it as well because of the Golden Bird Buddy, and he's still able to do the plan with the 6 drop next turn, no problem.
Yeah, 34 health and damage cap still on and a chance of a 6. He's going to take that chance. Very nice to see.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've seen much of Collins and Shady talking, but it's a result I'm not surprised by. They have very opposing opinions on the game, which is weird because they're both really, really good at the game.
I do, yeah. I've watched 2 of their streams, I think, almost start to finish. Super interesting. Learned a lot, and I think they are the best streams to learn from, especially from my mindset. I don't necessarily, in Battlegrounds in particular, want one good player to tell me with certainty that things are right and wrong, because I think if anyone is doing that, they're probably wrong, because good players understand what they don't know about this game. So much more useful to me is hearing 2 good players disagree and just take each other's point of view, back and forth and trying to find middle ground and work out where the sweet spot is. I think that's absolutely the best way to learn the most about this game.
They've added XD into their podcast now as well, who is another player with
really?
a third sort of set of opinions, because he's quite a conservative player, in my opinion at least, and it's very interesting to listen to them all talking it through. Oh, RDU doing 12 damage there to Aveline, so he sorted that board out to some degree. I didn't catch what it all was because I was waffling away, but looks like he might be back on track.
Yeah. RDU's put something nice together. Av did take that triple from the Quillballs that I was talking about that she had locked up with the double dormant. She took it into a 5, picked up a Met Crawl, so she's still a little bit weak overall, still lacking a win condition in general. We do now see Collins hitting that big greed turn, just picks up the Tempo King Eliza, but now Aveline is offered a Hogger and a Tony of her own. Ends up going with the Pig instead, though, which is a little bit strange considering right now she's really not into Blood Gem synergy at all.
Yeah. I think she's in sort of try and get the good cards mode, and this is the sort of thing that I sometimes fall into where it's like, well, they're all good cards, and you end up with 4 opposing sets of good cards, but this can change around quickly, right?
It can, yeah, but I think it changes around quicker. Like, if you were going to take a 6-6, I'd rather take the one that randomly wins you the game sometimes, which is Hogger, right? If things line up perfectly from that position, I just think that's a better high roll to play for. I don't think, 90% of the time, you are neither going to be Infinite Pirates or get enough Blood Gems that the Pig ends up being relevant. But I do think that the Hogger is probably a marginally higher percentage out in that position for my thinking.
Sun here looks like she's sort of abusing the damage cap. She's gone to 6 and she's set up a board of 2 minions to not have much going on this turn. This is what you were talking about. This is your moment, Sottle, with the be greedy until you can't anymore with your Avenge. Even though it's not an amazing example, it's what she's doing.
Yeah, and I think she is giving it the proper amount of respect. That's a fantastic hit, by the way, sniping out the Hydra there. That saved her so much health. But I think she is treating this perfectly because, again, if this was a dazzling light spawn, I would even argue that Sun had made herself far too strong that turn, right? Because she couldn't die. She was actually going to kill some stuff way too quickly. She should just be buying Acolytes and Icky Imps and getting as strong as possible. Doomsayer is not light spawn. You have to have that balance because you're not going to explode in one turn and win the game immediately. You do need to get incrementally stronger while still milking. That's where, like, Imp Matron, for example, comes in so clutch because it's a fantastic, strong minion that is still a 3-in-1 minion that can help you milk off Doomsayer. Sun isn't quite there. She's rocking the Imprisoners instead, but she has a decent setup at the very least. But as I said, that hit on the Hydra potentially saved her a good chunk of health there, even though perhaps not the most important thing in the world because damage cap still being in place, as you pointed out.
Very quick bit of admin work. Europe won the previous lobby by 3. They lost the first lobby by 5, so they're 2 points behind here.
Yes.
I don't think we conveyed that. Okay, so Dog is relying on the bird persons here to just keep himself in the game. But like you've talked about several times, and it taught me a lot, they can buy you a lot of time. Even though they're not winning you the game, you're not winning the game on turn 8 or 9 anyway. You just want to get up, keep up with the rest of the lobby, and hope something turns around.
RDU starting to put something together here. 2 Great Wolves, one already on board, one in shop. He has a Reborn Rattler as well, which he can use to pick up another Reborn on the Goldrin. He also has a triple in shop, which could be a Myexna, could be a Golden Goldrin, could be all manner of things from this position, but we'll see what he ends up with. That's none of the above. Hamul was the green option, and with a very un-RDU line, he is playing Tempo King here at 10 HP, and I think the reason for that, Lorinda, is he's fighting Sneed this turn. He's at 10 HP, his damage cap is off, and the damage cap is on, but he can die to it, if you want to be precise with your language. So he understood that he needed to be as strong as humanly possible this turn, because Sneed does not mess about. You will get found out real quick against Sneed if you try and mess about in that position.
He's got the Reborn, it's gonna get. That's okay.
It's just not close, is it?
No, it's not enough. And it's gonna be Bill.
Oh, the Matron though! The last moment of BM from RDU. He's gonna go down, but he's gonna go down swinging as he takes out the Nest Matron way too early for WTY Bill's liking. Shutting off a potential extra card off the milk, and he is just gonna have to make do with eliminating the king of the last 2 lobbies, it has to be said, with RDU, and it's going to be now up to the rest of Team Europe to put things together. But at the same time, off camera, that Maev is Avalyn, who has gone down at the same time, which means it is now just Sun on the Alakir and Simi on the Rafarm left hanging in this lobby for Europe. And if you look over at that left-hand side, that does not spell good reading for fans of Europe, because they are currently the 2 weakest players in the lobby in terms of health. Not that that necessarily means too much in terms of who is going to walk out the winner of the lobby.
Yes, interesting actually. We haven't seen much of Slissa in this one, but last time we saw her, she had a mutinous board, but no divine shields and stuff going on. Or if she's fixed that, because she has some big things on the board already. No, she's still struggling to get full value out of the hero power. When it goes on your tank, it's weird. The tank's sitting there forever. You don't want the buff tank a lot of the time because you want to sell the thing that gets buffed and buff a divine shield or buff a more important minion.
Yeah, and I think she has just resigned to Tempo Queen in this position, right? Like, double juggler, golden tank, double imprisoner, like, that's just basically her board at this point, and she's going to see how far that can carry her.
Golden juggler, golden tank, next turn.
That's huge. I mean, that opens up another board space for another demon. You can fit a Void Lord or an Imp Matron in there, which is a whole load more pew-pew that can come from Golden Juggler and Golden Tank.
See what the pairings are... That's a lot of
Ooh,
stats
that's a
on
lot of
Alakir.
health.
That's Sun on Alakir. That's important for Europe that Sun has built this board up so big.
Yeah. And importantly as well, she's cashed out of the Doomsayer. We didn't necessarily watch her last fight, but this is a sign of a very accomplished player. Bad players keep the Doomsayer even after it stopped milking. Average players will play one fight and say, okay, it didn't milk, I'll sell it now. Good players sell it the turn before it stops milking, and that's what Sun looks like she might have done in that spot.
Yeah, and she's had to tread the line all the way through this, because she had like 5 1/1s and not much else going on early on, and she did the thing, make one big minion, let Alakira's hero power do its thing, and buy the time to get to the situation she's in now. So she has trodden this line really well in this game.
That is Avalyn, though, on the... No, sorry, that is Simi on the Rafarm, with Avalyn already having died on the Maiev. So that means it is a 4-person Americas team, all up against a single Sun Glitters on the Alakir.
Yeah, and if Sun can take this lobby down, she is going to get, once again, the disappointment, finally getting a really good result, possibly, and then looking across and finding out who her teammates were, and they've all come in the bottom 3. And that's a long way to go yet. I mean, even though she's got an okay board, you know, she's not by any stretch a long way clear or anything.
I've been meaning to ask this whole tournament as well who that strange blonde-haired lady sat behind Sun is in this tournament, but I find it strange that there's allowed to be someone else sitting that close to her.
Absolutely. Very used to the avatar now. Which is amazing, by the way.
It is great.
Dog's board is just doing what you'd expect. Bill's board is doing what you'd expect, just progressing through gradual incremental improvements while waiting for the Goldens to turn up. Collins? These boards are so similar. I mean, obviously, of course, they're both hitting final build, but...
Yes. No one finding the Baron just yet. Collins having access to more dogs, more parrots overall. Whereas Bill has the Mama Bear and Death Rattle synergy, so he kind of has more layers of stats, whereas Collins just dumps more stats onto the board immediately. And yeah, again, you want to go back to my point of like step number 1, talk about what your first attack does into an Acolyte. There's still an Acolyte on this board. It's turn 11 and it's still hanging around there because of the double taunt effect that it's providing against Alakir. So I think that is a relevant concern way later into the game than a lot of people might suspect.
Yeah, very hard necessarily to predict it. Like, it makes your point much more concrete from earlier on. That it's going to happen early on, and then you've got to find the time where you're willing to bail on it.
9, go right. Okay, no way that you get back into the Battle Master, so you're always going to take that 5. That's 11 more damage coming through here from Sun. 11's not 17 though, and that's another player surviving. However, that's 2 players dying on the other side, leaving it just down to, I believe, Bill, Collins, and Sun at the end of all of this. Sun has survived 2 of the Americas players. There is still 2 left to fight off though.
And once again, Bill is one of them. He's a regular high MMR player. We see him playing against streamers all the time, like super high. But he has been doing incredibly well and sort of going a little unnoticed thanks to the dominance of RDU, I think.
That is also with Slissa going out in 4th place as the Mutinous. It was a tied 4th, 5th, sure. But just in terms of where the game put her 3 finishes in this round were 3rd, 4th in 3 lobbies, which is a fantastic performance yet again from Slissa.
What's the good use for Fellbats? I always feel they scale incredibly slowly. By the time you've actually got it functioning, it doesn't really seem to help you because everyone's scaling faster. Is that right?
I think that is fair assessment, yes, but I do also think she has demons of sufficient size that just pumping more stats onto those is not the end of the world. I think generally what you're trying to do in this situation, and Sun's hand kind of speaks to the fact that she's understanding that, is you keep whichever demons have got absolutely massive, so the 40-40 and maybe the 25-25 now as well. Then with the rest of your board, you're just trying to make poisons, which you're seeing here with the Rattler on the Myexna, and then you just want Divine Shields to go alongside this as well. So I think Sun demonstrating perfect understanding of how to convert demons from a top 4 comp to a winning comp. Just keep the things you've got that are huge and then convert the rest into poison. She's doing the best that she can to turn this around into a top 1 build.
And I've just decided to pause and just look at the games and not talk. Who knew that was my job? All right, having a look at the Collins fight against the Ghost. He's looking absolutely monstrous now over there, though.
Yeah, and I think much more important on the other side is this fight for supremacy between Sun and Bill. I think Bill is just running out of stats here, even though the Mama is giving absolute max value. It just depends how many death rattles I think are over on that right-hand side in those 2 5-drops with the Mama and the Croc. And actually, he got so much Croc value that I think it's not going to matter. And Bill is just going to put Sun to sleep here, and that is going to be an America's 1-2 again with 11 damage going through to Sun. A valiant effort. She fought back the wave of the Americas almost single-handedly in that game, as RDU has been doing for most of the tournament that preceded this. But now it's going to once again come down to an America's 1 and 2 as Collins and Bill are going to battle for beast supremacy. But the great news they're going to find out at the end is that this was a 1 and 2 being fought between 2 Americas players. Again, players do not know who is playing who in this tournament. It's a unique twist that we haven't really seen in other team tournaments. So these players will still be playing their hearts out trying to secure the bag in the first place here, because for all they know, that's RDU or Avalyn or Sun on the other side that they're facing off against, and they need to defend the turf for their region.
Yeah, and I actually find it incredibly amusing that we get this moment where we, the viewers, just get to sort of revel in the misery of the players, knowing that we're not doing anything bad because they're going to be happy at the result either way. But we just get this moment where we get to just enjoy them having to suffer. Wouldn't be quite.
You'll see very soon what I was talking about earlier with Bird Goes First being probably the biggest 50-50, the biggest coin flip in the game, because Bill's zap is still just big enough to be able to take down some of this board. The Hydra and the Goldrin will go down. I guess the Goldrins will just go down before anything else with the way this board is lined up. Actually, the Mama Bear being a 1-7, I did not spot the 1-7. Okay, so that was Vol'jin hero power, I guess, that flipped the Mama and the Baron specifically to play around this scenario. Very smartly done from Collins. I thought that was just a straight up buffed Baron, didn't notice the flip. So yeah, very, very nicely done overall.
Yeah, and he's taken that decision, I don't know which turn, but whenever it was, he saw this coming at some point, so very nice. And
it's a huge, huge difference, right? Because if he didn't have the 1-7 Mama, the Zap would have hit the Goldrin twice, which means no bird value if the Zap ends up going first, because both Goldrin, the Goldrin and the Reborn Goldrin would have both been killed in that position. So the fact that he was still able to pick up the value there is a big, big deal. But still, Sneed is going to Sneed in these positions. He's doing his absolute level best to try and scam. Oh, poison spawn on the right. That's disgusting. I don't think it gets there, though. No. Collins just about holds on, but it's not enough damage. There has to be another fight. And now, Bill knows. Bill no longer lacks critical information as to what he's up against with the Baron on the other side, so he can plan much more effectively to deal with that board state, and he finds a Baron of his own.
Yeah, ripping his own Baron there is going to sort of level this up a lot, remembering he is on that Sneed, which gives him a lot of hidden value as well. Collins trying to work out if he can work this Poison into the mix, if he can work this Divine Shield into the mix, but Divine Shield doesn't really work with this. Does get the double poison though now.
Yeah, Argus is nice too on Collins' side. Reborn is fantastic on Bill's side. Both players hitting big on this turn. Bill choosing to focus poison instead of the stat dump with the Wolf and the Baron, which I think is a good recognition. If he's selling his own zap here, he's kind of conceding stats, right? Because there's no way he can build a board that's as oppressive as what his opponent has. He's leaving up a Baron because he's given up his zap, so he has no real way of interacting with it because he knows Collins has that played around. So with Bird reborn wolf, he knows he can't catch up in terms of stats. So instead, he's going for the scam with the poison reborn instead, considering that to be his best way out.
Yeah, and you saw the opposite on the other side there from Collins. He had the chance to take the poison reborn. Actually, he's ended up with it anyway, but it wasn't his first choice poison reborn. He reborned the bird first and chose to go to keep the pressure on using the stats he already had. So the difference in choice was made by the fact that one of them is a little bit ahead, or a long way ahead.
Value trades for the Maexner are really nice here, but it does not look like Bill is anywhere close because of this raw number of stats. Like, yes, that Maexner is going to be able to kill 2 things, but find me the board that kills the rest of this nonsense. It's just not there, and those 2 cleaves are looking an awful lot better than the ones we saw in the previous game where they marched straight into random poison minions being spawned from all this Sneed garbage, and that is looking like a definitive Collins victory. Again, he will soon realize that this was all much of a muchness. He'll still be happy with the lobby victory. He will be even happier when he finds out it was an Americas player that he beat in the 2nd position.
Yeah, and they are going to take down the 2 points for the Battlegrounds portion of America versus Europe. Of course, there is still the Constructed and the Mercenaries to come, so they haven't won the day yet or anything. But also it adds 2 points to their league total, which... yeah, they're going to be head-to-head with China for that #1 spot, the spot that gets you straight into the finals, and couldn't get off to a better start than obviously picking up maximum points in the first discipline of the day.
Yeah, crushing performance, honestly, from Americas as well. Arguably what people expected to be happening when we saw that Americas team put together, because on paper that is a terrifying team, right, in terms of Battlegrounds power level overall, in terms of average MMR, in terms of tournament results across multiple different disciplines. Like, not only are multiple players on that team fantastic high MMR top ladder Battlegrounds players, but Bill, Dog, for example, have a huge competitive legacy in Constructed and in previous game modes as well, and they have that competitive background. So it's always felt like the Americas team should be able to put stuff together, and so far they have actually been marching through in Battlegrounds, and that, I believe, when the final scores have been tallied, is not even going to have been particularly close with the way that last lobby panned out as well.
No, absolutely. Yesterday, Americas won very easily as well, but they got off that terrible start. They just got destroyed in the first lobby. But it does look like China might be the only ones who are able to hang with them. Obviously, APAC will have something to say about that tomorrow and further on today, because they get to play China today. After we finish this rotation, after we finish Americas versus Europe, we go on to APAC versus China, where we get another look at the APAC players. But anything to take away from that? Any moments that you thought sort of stood out as great plays?
I think the meta is very, very interesting, because a lot of people are going very, very aggressive with tempo, like to the point where like it even might be too difficult to scale Avenge in the way that you generally can on ladder, because everyone else in the lobby is going so aggressively for jugglers and mechano tanks, and they're being available in every single lobby, that you would end up just taking 15 into 15 so quickly if you ended up going for that super low scaling Avenge strategy that I was talking about. That's been interesting to look at, because the game has been so aggressively mechano tank and juggler based from what we've seen so far, right? It's been a very pew meta up until this point. And it's really shutting down everyone's ability to stack enough stats to really deal with that position. We're seeing a few people get there. We saw that last game come down to a battle of Beast versus Beast with a demon splash in there from Sun. But overall, the story of the day has very much just been mechano tanks running wild. Very interesting now in the last 2 or 3 Battlegrounds series that we have yet to play, whether that's a trend that continues.
Yep, and that is us done for the Battlegrounds portion of this. So we are going to continue now with EU versus Americas. If you're here just for the Battlegrounds, we'll be back after the Construct of the Mercenaries. If you're here to see who wins between the two mouthiest regions, then stay tuned. We're back in about 5 minutes.